know if a lot of you have heard this, but the CIA annex had actually had taken a couple of Libyan militia members prisoner, and they think that the attack on the consulate was an effort to try to get these prisoners back. So that's still being vetted. The challenging thing for General Patraeus is that in his new position, he's not allowed to communicate with the press. So he's known all of this. They had correspondence with the CIA station chief in Libya. Within 24 hours, they kind of knew what was happening.
Charles, I should also point out that Broadwell also points out that Patraeus talked to the CIA station chief within 24 hours. The station chief, as was reported, said that it was a terrorist attack within 24 hours. Patraeus briefed lawmakers on Capitol Hill behind closed doors, saying it was the anti-Islam video and a spontaneous attack.
Well, that's the mystery. And that's where I think all of this ultimately leads. And that's why this is a sex scandal that the mainstream media have now embraced, but it leads to the story that they ignored, which is how do you explain the testimony that Patraeus gave when it contradicted what the CIA chief, station chief in Libya had told him, when it contradicted what Panetta had briefed, and what everybody at the time was saying. Now, the Broadwell disclosure that we just saw is important, not because, as people are now getting all upset about it, might have disclosed secret information, but because it might tell us what might have been a motive for the CIA to disguise, to lie about, or to cover up what was happening in Benghazi. If they were holding prisoners, either the administration or the White House knew about it, in contradiction of the executive order Obama had done when he came into office, or the CIA and the people in Libya were hiding it from the administration, in which case it's a breach of something and it could be serious. But it gives you one of the many motives for why Patraeus' testimony was so at odds with what everybody at the time was saying and knew. And the fact that Patraeus resigns with a week to go before he's supposed to testify will not be there. As many people on the Hill have already said, we've got to have him there, including Dianne Feinstein, I'm sure, being a Democrat and therefore being obviously nonpartisan about this. They're going to want to know, where did this testimony come from? That's the link between the two scandals. And personally, I'm not interested in the private lives of high officials, but I am interested in what happened in Benghazi and why the story out of the CIA was so bizarre. And what's troubling to me, and look, to Dianne Feinstein, is the timeline of the disclosure. I mean, the FBI is looking into the possible compromise of national security at the highest level. The keeper of the secrets could be the subject of blackmail, or his computers could be compromised. And they hold all this information inside? At what point was the head of the FBI told? Why didn't he tell the Attorney General? When was he told? Every time you read these timelines in the papers, it's always several months ago. It's always the vaguest to allow people to fudge who knew what and when. And it is almost inconceivable that the White House at some level would not have known about this. If they know about this, then they are in a position to exert influence over Patraeus in a way that could result in all kinds of things. This goes way back to J. Edgar Hoover. He knew everybody, the secrets on everybody in town, and he had something on everybody in town. So who knew what, and who told whom in this FBI investigation? And why does the chairman of the committees, who should know about this right away, learn when everybody else learns at the very end, 3 days after Election Day? That is not credible.
We can't just cut our way to prosperity. If we're serious about reducing the deficit, we have to combine spending cuts with revenue. And that means asking the wealthiest Americans to pay a little more in taxes.
Instead of raising tax rates on the American people and accepting the damage it will do to our economy, let's start to actually solve the problem. Now let's focus on tax reform that closes special interest loopholes and lowers tax rates.
We need the Republicans to do in 2012 what we did in 2010. We hear the mandate, continue to cut spending, but they have to hear the mandate, real revenues.
No Republican will vote for higher tax rates. We will generate revenue from eliminating deductions and loopholes.
In contradiction to one of my colleagues, I think Republicans have to hold a line on something, and that is on rates. Liberals are congenitally unable to understand the difference between raising rates and raising revenues. And Republicans have to stand on that, because if they give in on rates, they're going to get rolled. It'll be a rate here for just a millionaire here. Remember how the alternative minimum tax started in the late 60s. It was aimed at, what, 600 millionaires? And now it gets tens of millions of people in its net. So I think they've got to hold the line. Obama has a mandate, but the Republicans, who had the largest success in 2010, the largest gain of seats since the late 40s, also have a mandate. And I think that is to hold the line on rates. It makes no sense at all to raise rates, which will retard economic growth, when you can eliminate deductions, which are unfair and inefficient.
Okay.
This has been a Sunfish production.